Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Geyer. I am a teaching assistant professor in digital storytelling here at Hussman. I've met many of you. Those whom I haven't met, I hope to meet you soon. And I'm talking to you right now about AI. For the past 8 months or so, I've been researching how students and teachers are using AI. And in the process of doing that, I've discovered some really interesting and some really useful things that I think could really improve your workflow as student journalists in the public life reporting class. So I want to share these tips and tricks with you for the next few minutes. Now, before we get started, I want to emphasize something I just said: workflow. AI is all about improving the workflow, and the emphasis there is on the flow, not the work. AI will improve your work, don't get me wrong, but it does so by, let's say, supercharging the flow that leads up to the work, okay? That's a common misconception that has evolved during this whole AI boom. People are focusing too much on the end result. They say, oh, ChatGPT can write an article for you. Well, that's debatable depending on the story and the sources. But can ChatGPT write an article for you? Yes, it can. But too much focus is put on that, right? It's not about the end result. It's about the process that leads to it. Because here's the thing. Writing the text is not really where generative AI shines. Now, it's the parlor trick that blew us all away when ChatGPT came out, right? But that's really not its strong suit. Where AI shines is in the process that leads up to the writing, and then in the process of analyzing the text after it's been created, all right? So what do I mean in the case of being a journalist and being a reporter? Well, what's that process? AI can help with brainstorming story ideas, right? It can help with finding sources for your interviews. It can help you vet those sources to determine whether it's worth your time to interview them. After you've written a draft, it can fact check for you. It can take a look at the content and analyze it and recommend ways to improve it. Again, it's all about the process. But in the middle of that, the actual writing and the actual interviewing the subject, that's still you. That's still the human. AI is not going to replace that, right? So only thing that's really changed is now you, the human reporter, has this amazing superhuman assistant that can help with all of the legwork, right? And it's that legwork that I'm going to talk about over the next few minutes. First of all, before you start looking for the story using AI, you need to ask yourself, what is the best tool for that? And there are two currently that you probably want to explore. First of all, there's ChatGPT. Now, this is the one we all know and love. This is the beast that has rocked the world, so to speak. But ChatGPT has some serious limitations not a lot of people know about. First of all, it's not connected to the internet. So that is a serious limitation, especially as a journalist. It's not connected to the internet. It will not have access to the most recent information. And in fact, its training corpus ended in 2021, and you may know that. So it does not have access to any information that has evolved since then. Second of all, its most recent version that is available for free, and that's probably the version that you have, is 3.5. And they now have a newer and much more powerful version, ChatGPT 4. But going through the website for ChatGPT through OpenAI only gives you 3.5 on the free version, and you have to pay $20 a month to get access to version 4. So what's another alternative? Well, you may have heard several months ago, Microsoft, air quotes, invested $10 billion into OpenAI. And the reason they did that was to get the rights to use the ChatGPT tech directly into their search engine, Bing. So Microsoft launched Bing Chat. And Bing Chat has several advantages over ChatGPT when you're doing research as a reporter. It is connected to the internet, which is a massive, massive advantage. It uses the latest version of ChatGPT 4 for free. So it's incredibly powerful, much more powerful than the one that you get through the ChatGPT website. And it has an image generator baked right into it when you go into creative mode. So you don't have to go to a separate piece of software in order to generate an image. You can do it right there in your prompt while you're doing other research. All right, so let's take a look at Bing Chat. If you aren't already familiar with it, you don't have it, let me show you how you get that set up. All right, so first of all, in order to use Bing Chat, you have to use Microsoft's Edge browser. So just go on to a search engine and search Edge browser, and this will come up, and then go and download Edge, right? Once you've downloaded Edge, open it up. Okay, so I have the Edge browser open here, and then just search Bing Chat. Okay, so here we go, Bing Chat. Open that up. Okay. And you'll see that it allows you to start using Bing Chat right off the bat. However, if you don't create an account, you only get 5 prompts within a conversation before it shuts off and forces you to start a new conversation. And if you use it without signing into an account, you cannot use the image generator in creative mode. So I recommend just go ahead and creating one. It's free. Now, everyone has a Microsoft account already through UNC. However, interestingly, it is very limited. The UNC Microsoft account, if you use that to sign in, only gives you 5 prompts in a conversation and does not let you use the image generator. So it's pretty much like not signing in. So you can just sign in with a personal account. If you're worried about privacy and getting spammed and all that, then you can just use a burner email account or a cloaked one like Proton Mail or Vivaldi. There's tons of them out there. Anyway, so once you sign in order to create an account, just go up to the top right and click sign in. All right. And then you can just go create an account. I've already created one with a Gmail account. Okay. And we're ready to go. Okay. And you'll see that the drop down here. Now, there are 3 modes in Bing Chat. This is another thing that I find to be really helpful when you're doing research. Creative, balanced, and precise. Balanced is basically what you're used to with ChatGPT. It's your typical AI chatbot. The precise mode, this is for when you want results that have less of a chance of hallucination. In the AI world, hallucination is where the chatbot tries to sound authoritative and tell you what you want to hear by making stuff up. You've probably heard about that. It doesn't do that much, nearly as much as it did 7-8 months ago. It's getting a lot better, but it still can happen. And the precise will lower the chances of that. And Bing Chat will always cite its sources, which is another huge advantage over ChatGPT. I'll show you that in a second. So you may want to use precise if you're researching data, things like that. And then creative mode is where you would probably want to use Bing Chat for brainstorming and for proofreading and suggesting improvements to your writing, things like that, because then there's some element of subjectivity and creativity to it. And this is also where the image generator comes into play. Okay, before we get started, I need to point out one other feature in Bing Chat. Now, when you're using AI as a journalist, you're definitely going to want to have access to your previous conversations in Bing so that you can download them, the transcripts, and share links to the conversations with other people, with the colleagues or your professor, that sort of thing. And Bing lets you do both of those, but it's a little quirky as far as how you set that up. So I want to show you that right now. All right, so here I am in Bing, and So you can see here that I have my most recent Bing chats in here. Okay. If you don't see that, it's because of this little quirk. You go into the settings here. Okay. And of course, once again, you need to be signed into your account. And then you go into settings and safe search. You need to make sure that that's off. So you just click on that, click off, and then save, right? Okay. And then in order to share a conversation, okay, you just click on it. So let's say I want to share this Bing chat with one of my web design students about, let's see, placing an image in Figma. Okay, so I click on that. It pulls up the conversation, all right? And then I can either share it by generating a link, copying the link, and then I can just send that to them. Or I can export, and then you can export as a PDF, a Word, or plain text document. Really, really good feature that you're going to need in order to do your work properly with AI as a journalist. All right, so let's get back into finding the story. So I'm going to go into creative mode for that. And I have an example that I prepared to sort of expedite this process. So let's start with this one here. Okay. Oops, so I need to go back up to the top. Okay. So one of the tips that I've discovered over the last few months, in order to get really good responses, particularly in creative mode, is to give the AI a role. So you say, pretend you are fill in the blank. So pretend you are the editor of an online news outlet in the US. And you can be a lot more specific than that, right? You could be pretend you are the editor for an online newspaper in Durham, North Carolina, for example. Please recommend some currently underreported angles on trending topics. So this might be a case where you have been assigned a topic or you know you want to write about a certain topic, but you don't want to just churn out the same type of article that you've seen in other outlets. So you want to get a new angle on it. This is fantastic. So this is, you see the response here. So it's getting its trending topics based on Google Trends and a couple of other sources. And you can verify that by clicking the links. And then it suggests some new angles on those, right? How TikTok ads are changing the landscape of social media marketing. And these are really interesting. And I have not to my knowledge, I've not seen this covered widely by the press. So there are some opportunities for some interesting stories. And then you can also do this. You can say, I know what story I want to home in on, but I want to find an angle on that particular story. So you say, all right, recently Mitch McConnell suffered second incident of freezing up during a press conference, and may have heard about that. So again, pretend you're the editor of an online news outlet. Recommend 5 angles on this story that have not yet been widely covered. And here we go. So once again, really interesting and potentially useful ideas for angles on this story. What causes, what are the absent seizures? What are the treatments? What protocol does his staff and security have in place, considering his medical situation, and yada. You see how that goes, right? And you can, if you're not happy with those results, you can say, try again or generate 5 more. You can regenerate the response, and it'll usually give you a different response every time. And the thing is, it's almost more like quantity than quality. It's, if you're not happy with what you get at first, just keep prompting it and refining your responses so that you get something that could be potentially useful. All right, let's look at another example here of how you can use AI prompts to help with finding a story. And this is probably more relevant to what you might be doing in the public life reporting class. Here's the prompt in this situation. Pretend you're the editor for an online newspaper in Durham, North Carolina. So you can be more specific. And when you specify the location, it's going to tailor its search and its response based on that location, which is a huge advantage. Please recommend 3 underreported stories about education in Durham. And then here's where being specific can also lead to better results. So if I had just left it with please recommend 3 underreported stories about education, the responses might have been great, but you're more likely to have success if you say, here's what I mean by underreported stories on education. Stories that have not been widely covered, or new angles on existing stories that have not appeared in other publications. This is the operative part of this sentence here. So I'm saying only give me stories that have not appeared in other publications. And when I've done this before, I've actually asked Bing to prove that that's the case. And so I said, show me any publications in which this particular story, this angle on the story has appeared. And if it does, then, well, it wasn't being completely accurate. And so you can basically fact check Bing in its assertion that this is an underreported story before you decide that it is. You can't just take it on faith. The tech is amazing here. It's powerful, but you can't, we're not at the point where you can just trust it with blind faith here. All right, so, here's the story, underreported stories on education in Durham. And here we go. It gave me 3 responses. I could ask for more. I could say, give me 3 more, 5 more, and you're ready to go. And these are interesting. So I like this one. How public schools is addressing the achievement gap among students with different racial and ethnic backgrounds in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact. That's interesting, right? Just from a cursory review of this, it seems like COVID has had much more adverse impact on students of color. But, why is that the case? What can we do about it? That would be an interesting story, definitely something worth reporting. I'm not familiar with Da Vinci Education. How different types of schools are adapting to the changing times, everything, right? So anyway, you get the idea. So be as specific as possible. Tell Bing, hey, pretend that you're an editor, pretend whatever the role may be, and you'll get better results. Okay, so let's say that you found your story and you're ready to go find your sources, right? So, of course, you're going to need to interview some people in order to write the article. You need quotes. You need to talk to people who can provide some valuable insight on the story. This is where AI, once again, can really, really help you, save you some time, and give you some ideas that you probably wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So let's take a look at an example here. I'm going to go to, let's say that you decided to pursue this story that we mentioned earlier, how the Durham Public Schools are addressing the achievement gap among students of different racial and ethnic backgrounds in the wake of COVID. Great. We're going to go for that story. So you got to find some sources. Who are you going to talk to on that, right? So here we go. Please suggest 5 possible sources to interview for the second story you suggested about Durham Public Schools. And you don't even need to reiterate the topic because it's in the same conversation thread. So it will know what you're referring to. See, this is the first prompt, and then this is the second one. So it'll refer back to here and realize, oh, you're talking about this one. And so please suggest 5 sources, and boom, right? It can be more than 5. I just used 5 as a starting point. It gives you the name of the person. It gives you a brief explanation as to why they might be a good person to interview on this story, okay? And then most importantly, it gives you citation so you can go and check that this is accurate and read more about that person. Okay, so you've found your story. You've found some potential sources to interview for that story. Now, you're probably facing a tight deadline. So you need to make sure that you're going to spend your time wisely. You want to interview people who are going to give you valuable insights. They're going to be giving you accurate information about the topic, about the events, firsthand account of something, so on and so forth. This is another place where AI can really, really streamline the workflow and make things a lot easier for you. So when you're vetting your sources, there's a nifty trick that I have realized that not only helps with this, but all sorts of types of work that you might be doing with AI. And that's making tables. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So whenever you want to compile different sources of information into a single resource that makes it easier for you to act upon, then ask AI to create a table for you. So let's go back to that story about the Durham Public Schools in the wake of COVID, right? So here were 5 sources that Bing recommended for interviews. Now I said, okay, thank you. First of all, you got to be nice to the robots because when they take over, they may remember that. So please prepare a table for each person you just listed. The table should provide a list of that person's media appearances in the last 5 years. Okay. And then I went in and I was specific about the table. The first column should have the date of that person's media appearance. The second column, the name of the media outlet. And then the third column, give me a brief summary of that person's comments during the media appearance. All right. And boom, here we go. So this is a table with each of these persons. So Sandy Darity Jr., right? This is all of his appearances in the last 5 years. And you can quickly see, okay, Darity spoke about Juneteenth. He spoke about the need for reparations, talked about the economics of race and justice. Okay, great. Continuing with the next expert, the next person, you can read about what Dr. Keisha Bentley Edwards talked about, what sort of outlets she appeared in and how often. So you get an idea for, sort of how much of a mover and shaker she is on this topic. I mean, you can see like some PBS, NPR, New York Times, those are some pretty major outlets, so on and so forth. This is fantastic. And of course, it's all backed up by citations. So you can fact check this. You can say, did she really say this in the Charlotte Observer on May 25th of this year, right? This saves you a ton of time. It lets you home in on, okay, this is the person that I want to talk to first because it's probably going to be the most fruitful, right? And then also, let's be honest here, this will help grease the wheels when you get to the interview. It'll help ingratiate yourself with the person because you will be more familiar with their work and with their previous comments. And, so they probably would appreciate that. You're talking to William Darity and you can say, oh, by the way, I read about your comments on Juneteenth and I thought that was interesting. And just the fact that you are familiar with that is probably going to, sort of help you put them at ease and get a better interview, right? So this is fantastic. I highly, highly recommend doing this. And not just for when you're researching a story. In journalism, making tables is fantastic for all sorts of work that you might do because it puts everything together and then you can go and print this if you want. And it almost makes like a checklist. I use this all the time and I highly recommend it. All right, so you're farther along on the process. You have found your sources for your story and you vetted them and you've lined up an interview. All right. Now here is another step in the process where AI can really help. Brainstorming some questions. All right. So let's take a look at how that might work using Bing Chat. Okay. So we're using that example from the Durham Public Schools COVID-19 racial disparity story. And so here's the prompt for some questions that you might want to ask. Again, be specific. So a young reporter and journalism student at UNC is planning to interview Dr. Nakia Hardy about, and then here's the topic, right? Please recommend 10 questions to ask. Now, was it imperative to be that specific and set up who would to just describe the reporter that would be doing the interview? Maybe, maybe not, but it's not going to hurt, right? It's going to help. It's going to help AI tailor the responses, knowing who is going to be the person that's asking the questions, right? And of course, this is just be maybe in your case, if you're an old reporter that's not a journalism student at UNC, then you would tailor the description, of course. All right, so boom, and here's what it spit out. So 10 suggested questions, and look through these. These are fantastic. Now, I want to emphasize something. Okay, this is just sort of a foundation. This is not meant to replace what you do as the human journalist, brainstorming some ideas for questions, doing your homework, coming up with some things that you might want to ask in the interview. Okay. This is more like just having an assistant there in the room for you. Or let's say it's a coworker, it's a colleague. You've got another reporter with you in the newsroom, and you're about to head out for the interview, and it's hey, I'm about to do this interview. What can you suggest some good questions to ask? Right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. So I don't see anything wrong with doing that using AI. But don't rely solely on this. You still need to supplement this with your own instincts, your own experience, your own knowledge as a journalist, and your creativity, right? And then, of course, once you get into the interview, you're probably going to go off script, so to speak, and ask questions that arise in the moment, go in different directions, so on and so forth. But this is just a good starting point, right? And if you're not happy with the results, regenerate the response, try a different prompt, and just see what you get. It's just a good way to get started. Okay, so now we've come to the heart of the matter, interviewing the sources for your story. Now, like I said earlier, the process of interviewing people is still something that is the purview of human beings, and I would imagine that that's going to be the case for quite a while. And why is that? Well, because it involves people. It involves conversations, and that is an essentially human ability, right? It's having a natural conversation flow, question, answer, follow up. And I don't think anytime soon there will be robots with opposable thumbs and friendly demeanors that will be out on the streets holding microphones and doing interviews instead of human journalists. However, that doesn't mean that one day soon, AI might help during the interview process. So let me show you how that might be the case. So you think, well, how could AI actually participate in a process that is distinctly human, like having a conversation in real time? Well, think about interviewing somebody in a story. Well, how about representing someone in a court case? This actually almost happened very recently. So there was a man in Britain who was prepared to use AI to represent himself in a speeding case in traffic court. And the idea was that he was going to have smart glasses on that were recording what was being said by the judge, the other lawyers and such in the courtroom. And then AI was going to ingest that, recommend what he should say in response, and then send that into an earpiece. And this was all set to happen. Now, here's the interesting thing is that before it actually, the trial was ready to go on February 22nd of this year, word got out and you see multiple state bars threatened us, the man said. They even threatened to send it to the DA's office for prosecution and prison time. So you can see this is how human beings are often typically responding to this sort of situation. It's not a matter of whether the tech is ready to do it. It's rather people are ready to have the tech do it. And so you see that that's what happened. Very similar. So how would this come to fruition in the world of journalism? So let's say you're going out to interview a source for your story. You could have a similar situation to what this guy had in traffic court. You have an earpiece, you're recording the interview, or you've got your smartphone out and it's got ChatGPT or Bing open and ready, and it's listening to the conversation. And you could prompt AI to say, please give me please suggest a follow-up question after the person gives their initial answer. So after they speak, recommend a follow-up question. We're there. It absolutely could do that now. But the question is, will we want to do that? I don't think we're there. However, there are a lot of things throughout human history that seem ridiculous, that seem like sci-fi, that we would never really get there. And they eventually end up becoming commonplace. I mean, not long ago, 15 years ago or so, if you had told someone that human beings are going to be sitting around tapping messages with their thumbs onto these little screens instead of picking up the phone and actually having a conversation with their friends, you would have said, that's ridiculous. Why would they spend the time to type a message when they could just like talk to the person? And there we are. So that seemed ridiculous then, and it became commonplace. It may very well be the case that, 10 years from now, whatever, it's just considered normal to have that earpiece in your ear as a reporter and get a little bit of assistance from AI. Okay, so now we've come to the peak of this process, as it were, and it's time to write the article. Now, when you first thought about how AI could help with your work as a journalist, this is probably the first thing that came to mind. It's, well, maybe AI can just write the article for me. And that's because this has gotten a ton of press, right? When ChatGPT first blew up, everybody was talking about how it can write your English paper, your history essay. Students can use it to cheat. And in the world of journalism, the question is, can AI write an article for you? Well, let's just go ahead and get this out in the open. The answer is yes. Yes, it can. Okay. Let me just show you an example. And this was from back, a couple months ago. This is back in May. So this has improved substantially since then. But I tested this. So this was with Bing Chat. Here's the transcript. So I said, hey, Bing, write me a 500-word article about North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper's decision to veto the state legislature's bill that would ban abortions after 12 weeks. And then, it's all about being specific, like I've said earlier. So please use the nut graph method, professional, concise style, reminiscent of a major paper. And then here's where the rubber hits the road. You specify what quotes do you want. So you've done your interview, you've done your legwork as a human, you've got your notes, you've got your recording of the interview, and you choose the sound bites that you want, right? I want this quote, I want this quote, so on and so on. So just feed that quote into the prompt. So please include these quotes, right? This quote, this quote, this quote. And so there's the prompt and boom, okay? Now, is this the best thing since sliced bread? No, but I would bet $100 that if you turned this in for like a 153 class, it would probably go undetected. If you turned this in on a tight deadline to your editor at a news desk, once again, probably it would initially go undetected. They would not be able to tell that AI wrote this. It's pretty effing good, okay? The nut graph, it's got the tight lead, well written, covers all the facts. It includes the quotes that I asked it to include, and it wraps up with a pretty tight conclusion. Now, so there it is. Can ChatGPT write your article? Yes, absolutely it can. Should it? Well, absolutely no, it should not. And let's talk about why, okay? First of all, let's just talk ethics, all right? If you did this as a student here at UNC, okay, and you turned this in as your article and did not disclose that you used AI to write this, that is full stop an honor code violation. Let me pull this up. So these are the recently released guidelines for AI use for students. I was on the committee that helped craft these. And it says point blank, if you don't disclose that you used AI to produce your work, to write this article, may be reportable violation to the honor code, honor court. Okay, so let's say that you do document it and your professor or your boss is fine with that. Should you use AI to just straight up write the article? Personally, I don't think so, because you're a journalism student, okay? You're studying journalism probably because you love to write and you're good at writing, right? So why sell yourself short? Why rely on technology to do that for you? That's just going to make you a shitty writer. And even if the product is good, where's the joy in that? Where's the expression? Where's the personal voice? Okay. There's so much that goes into great writing that is human. And you, as the human, have to practice your craft in order to develop that. And if you just rely on AI to produce the content straight up, you'll never be a great writer. You'll never have your own voice, and there will be no humanity in it. I mean, this is sort of venturing off into more philosophical, ethical territory that's, that would warrant a whole nother video perhaps. But just for now, let's leave it at this. Can AI write the article for you? Absolutely. Should it? No, at least not the first draft. AI can help with the writing process. It can help you improve your writing. But I really think that you, as a journalism student, you as a journalist after you finish school, at least the first draft should be you, the human. All right, so now we are almost to the end of our journey in using AI in the journalism workflow. And you have finished the first draft of your article. You, the living, breathing human being, has actually written the draft. So now where can you use AI? Well, you can use AI to help improve your writing after you've written the first draft. You can help it improve your writing. You can also use AI to help it change what you've written and tailor it to various audiences and needs. And I'll show you instances of each of those. But let's talk about, first of all, how you can use an AI chatbot like ChatGPT to help improve your first draft, okay? So I'm going to use an example of an existing article. And this is, I only picked this because I was basing this on our previous example where we were doing a story on Durham public schools and racial disparities in achievement gaps and how they're addressing that. So I found a story that was somewhat related to that topic, and I picked it because it was about 2,000 words, which I knew I could copy and paste into ChatGPT. And then just coincidentally, it also was written by a young journalist who just graduated from J School, I believe up at American University. So it kind of fit various criteria that I was looking for. Now, I'm not saying that this needs a lot of improvement. This is a fine piece of journalism on an important topic. So Grace Viglione, if you happen to ever see this, I am not picking on you. And this was a fine piece of work. I'm just using it because it fits my needs for this video. All right, so let's pretend that this is your first draft of your article, okay? So what I did was, this would obviously be a Word document in your case, or a Google Doc. So I just copied and pasted the text, okay? And I went into ChatGPT. Now, this is where ChatGPT is better, I find, than Bing Chat. You can copy and paste longer blocks of text into ChatGPT than you can Bing. At least recently, they may have expanded the capabilities with Bing. But you can paste a lot of text into ChatGPT and then ask it to do whatever you want. All right, so that's what I did here. But remember what I said earlier. It's all about being specific in your prompt. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you put in a crappy prompt and says, hey, improve this for me, ChatGPT, it's just it might give you some good results. But the more specific you are, the more specific sort of feedback and improvement you're going to get, okay? So here's an example. My prompt for this. I said, pretend you're William Zinsser, author of the classic guide to writing nonfiction on writing well. Okay. Now, why did I do that? That's because my first day in my first class in grad school here at UNC with Dr. Tom Linden, he handed us this book on writing well. This is the first thing he asked us to read, and I'm glad he did. And if you haven't read this, let me see here. I'm not getting paid for this. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. It's a classic. It's all about how to write great nonfiction. So obviously journalism falls under that category. And it's just really good points to keep in mind, right? Anyway, so that's what I did. I said, pretend you're that guy. Pretend you're William Zinsser, okay, the author of that book. Critique this article based on the principles, Zinsser's principles for great nonfiction writing, and suggest changes to improve the work. And then after the colon, I copied and pasted the article. So let's see what ChatGPT did for us. All right, while it addresses important issues related to student loan debt. Here are several ways it could be improved to align with Zinsser's principles for great nonfiction writing. So like number one, simplicity and clarity, right? Zinsser emphasizes the importance of clarity and simplicity. And it goes and it finds examples where something could be simpler, clearer, right? Now, it says, for example, this sentence, thinking about her debt and how it limits her choices is stressful, okay? And then it says, that's not exactly simple and clear. You can make that tighter. Well, great. Its suggestion for how to change it's not that great, in my opinion. The thought of her debt and its impact on her choices causes her stress. And honestly, in my opinion, I think that's just as bad. But that's not the point, okay? You're not supposed to just take ChatGPT's suggestions on the rewrite and just paste them wholesale. Don't think that a robot's going to be better than you. But the genius of this, the usefulness of this comes from just pointing out problems that you, the human, can fix. So like maybe you didn't notice that this sentence sucks, right? I'm sorry, it doesn't suck. I want to apologize to the author of this. It doesn't suck at all. But like you realize it could benefit from being simpler and clearer. And you're like, yeah, okay. So then you can bring your own voice to it and say, all right, how can I rewrite that? I don't just spitball here. The debt commandeered her thoughts. It kept her up at night. It limited her choices. It caused stress. I don't know, it's coming, like maybe that's my style of writing, right? So like it pointed out something, this sentence could be better, and then you go in and you fix it. That's how you can use AI, right? Same thing, like it was redundant here, so I can like close it. You can have a stronger opening and a stronger closing, more personal stories. You get the idea. It just gives you a way of quickly finding problems. And then you, with your own knowledge and experience and creativity, can improve them. Not AI, just you're using AI as the editor saying, no, this needs work here, here, and here, go back and do a rewrite. Think of it as your editor, right? The editor might be too busy to do the rewrite for you. She probably doesn't want to. So this is just like that. AI is the editor saying, marking it up, no, let's fix this, this, and this. And here, you give me another rewrite, talk, and get back to me in an hour, right? That's the way to approach this, all right? Now, another amazing thing that bots like ChatGPT can do is, let's say that you need to tailor this and revise it for a specific situation or a specific audience. So for example, you could say, thank you, okay? Because remember, when the robots are in charge, they may have a tally of who was nice to them. So thank you. Please condense the article into 500 words. So this was originally like 2,000. That's a huge cut, right? That would be very difficult to do. Let's see what it does. I'm sorry, guys, but damn. Wow. Yeah. Damn. I mean, I have to go in and do a deep dive, but just skimming this, you could argue it's almost better. But all right, so there you go. How about this? Let's say, thank you again. All right. Now, please translate that into Spanish and tailor it to a Spanish speaking audience of high school students. I'm just making this up. I mean, this is like an episode of Black Mirror. I've been enmeshed in this for months, and it's still, every time it does, it just knocks me out, man. Wow. So this is where we're at, okay? And I think it is okay. Your professor, your worker, your coworkers, your boss may disagree, your clients, but I think when you talk about the rewriting process, I think it's fine to use AI as a way of finding room for improvement. I still think you, the human, need to be the one making those changes. But then other things that are more sort of just structural and nuts and bolts, right? Not really stylistic choices, but like translation, condensing, and then I think it's perfectly fine to use AI. Now, you would not want to send this to print without vetting it, of course, right? You want to make sure that the translation is accurate. And then you would want to see, someone, a native Spanish speaker, say, would this be appropriate? Did the tone change appropriately for a high school audience? And you go in and you, the human, tweak it, right? But the initial conversion here could be done with AI. So I think it's just amazing. All right, so before we wrap things up here, I just want to point out one other way that AI can really be of service to you, and that's in fact checking. Now, depending on your workflow, fact checking might not be at the end of this process. It might be earlier on, might even be before you write your first draft. But you want to check your facts if you're a good journalist, of course. And this is one realm in which AI has really not taken over, but it's really proven its worth already. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me share my screen. All right, so if you just go in and search, and this is just a good old-fashioned search engine. Remember those? So I just AI fact-checking, and you see like the top 12 AI fact-checking. So the fact that there already are 12 of them is amazing. And then, full facts, logically, PolitiFact. Now, here's the thing. You want to use a dedicated fact-checking AI for this rather than AI or Bing. I've tried it with both, but these are dedicated large language models, meaning like they've been trained, as far as I know, they've been trained to do this specific thing. So they're going to be better at fact-checking than ChatGPT, which is sort of a tool for all uses. So which one should you use? Well, some of them you have to pay for, and the ones that you have to pay for, it's usually because like this logically or this long shot, I think is a popular one. It actually combines the initial AI fact checking with a team of humans that fact checks the fact check, right? It says, okay, AI said this was legit. And then it goes and it makes sure that that's the case before it gives you the thumbs up, right? So, and then, because humans are involved with that, you pay a fee. I'm going to show you one here, this Fact Insect, just as an example of how this might work. Okay, so this one was a free account. So you just drop your fact that you want to have checked in there. So let's say Spanish isn't going to help. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to pick a simple one. All right, so like how about this one? June 30th, the Supreme Court struck down the Biden administration student loan forgiveness plan. Okay, all right, that would be a good one, because that one AI should be able to get that. All right, so let's see if like the date is correct. Let's see if in fact the student loan forgiveness plan did plan to forgive between 10 and 20,000 in debt. All right. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to paste this in. Yep. And we hit the, now I think this is a German company. So like it'll give its initial response in, yeah, it gives the initial response in German, but the rest of it is, all right. So I'll, but then you'll see at the end, unable to say, no, it's possible. Let me just see what this is going on here. All right, so I'm going to go into a translate. Is not confirmed by the sources provided. None of the sources mentioned any Supreme Court decision. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, what is this? Let's see what this says. Oh, and then this goes to the sources. Okay. Interesting. Let's try another one real quick here. Huh. All right. Black women accumulate an average of 30,000 or something in undergraduate debt while white women carry. Interesting. I definitely want to check that fact. All right. Let's see what this does for that. Let's do a new one. Oh. I'm going to say in the US, probably because I'm sure that's what that was talking about. And again, don't trust this blindly, okay? This is just a starting point. Like in the earlier example, if it said this is not confirmed, then you know, okay, I can't just put this to print without doing a little bit of homework, okay? And if it's confirmed, then you can say, well, let's look at how it was confirmed. And if it seems like it was legit, then you go from there. Again, this one not confirmed. Let's see. All right, so this is, okay, let's see what it says here. To not wonder what the source is. So then you want to go in and see, well, what sources is it coming from? Like I said, I have not played around with this one as much, but you see where this is going. This is streamlining and expediting the fact-checking process. It's just helping you get started on it. But you, the human, still need to go in and do some of this yourself. And that's where we're at. But anyway, just wanted to mention this. This is definitely something that you might want to keep in mind.